Hello, everybody, and welcome to the latest edition of the Property Chronicle podcast. Today, we are joined by Norm Miller. Norm is the Ernest W. Hahn Chair of Real Estate Finance at the University of San Diego. And then go and do a master's in real estate to deepen their expertise. They go and learn from textbooks that you've co-authored, get an understanding of what the academic world thinks should be optimal ways of making investment decision making. And then they come back to the institution and carry on in a very similar way to how they did before, except with perhaps an inkling that this isn't the same as what I've just learned in my master's degree. And so differences persist between what is clearly established in the textbooks as the best way of doing things and institutional, I was going to say best practice, but I guess it'd be normal practice. So why do you think we get these continued discrepancies between what's clearly established in academia and what's common practice in the industrial side of things is?
I think part of it is the fact that historically, the people that worked in commercial real estate, let's go 20 years back to 50 years back in that time horizon, they learned on their own. They learned from a mentor or from experience or by making mistakes. And anybody you meet out there that's, say, 60 years old or older, there's a good chance they learned from a mentor or on their own. It's really only the last 20 years that we've seen more sophisticated education. And that education and our textbook is nothing more than capturing the experience of those people that learned on their own. That's all we did, is we put that experience there. And the reason we want you to read it and study it and understand it is so that you can accelerate 10 years of mistakes down to 2.
Very good. Yes.
So keep in mind the industry is still filled with those people that learned on their own. Some of them don't understand that there's another pathway, that you can learn from the experience of others. It's captured in good teachers and experienced professionals and good mentors. So that's part of it. Another part of the answer has to do with the fact that 70% of the industry by the number of people involved are really small scale. They buy and sell smaller scale properties. 30% of the market might be involved in larger scale properties. In terms of the value, that's flipped. The 30% controls 70 to 80% of the value. And yet the 70% control, 20 to 30% of the value, but that's a lot of small scale individuals. So you're going to find a lot of less sophistication in that 70% that control a lot of smaller assets. I do think in the institutional level now, it's pretty sophisticated. And when we teach our students, we make the point that you have to assume that everybody's pretty informed and pretty sophisticated now. Mm-hmm. You're not going to make money by sneaking something over someone's head like they might have in, the 1960s. It's an informed, sophisticated market. But that doesn't mean you can't go to some conference and run into a lot of people that are still making mistakes. I think the other part of the question is, why aren't we better? And it has to do with the fact that, if it's not broke, don't fix it as a mentality. Mm-hmm. So if you're doing well, you satisfice. You don't try to tweak and optimize, you satisfice. And the industry is filled with that, not just in real estate. I think that's true of most industries if things are going well. But with real estate, because of leverage, if you're doing well and you're being paid well, you're not always working at improving. And yet, as well as I do, that with AI applications now integrating here and there on different parts of the industry, there will be firms that will be better. And at some point in time, you're going to be performing less than the average, and your values are going to be less than the average, and you're going to wonder why. So we're not quite there yet, but I would say within the next few years, there'll be a wake-up call on, everybody's becoming more productive, I better jump on that same bandwagon.
Yeah. No, I think you're exactly right that there's a pervasive, if it's not broke, don't fix it type attitude. One that's supported by the fact that, over the last decade or so, real estate investment managers have done pretty well for themselves. They've been making money, and there hasn't been the necessity for change. That's often a subject I return to when I'm talking to people in the prop tech space who are saying, why isn't there been more adoption given this just ongoing conservatism and lack of change? And you're like, well,
yeah, and I can't blame somebody who's extremely wealthy, who's done well by understanding market timing. They've lived through 3 recessions. They knew the time to get in is when there was a lot of distress, and they did well. And everything I'm talking about is noise to them.
Right, absolutely.
But I'm thinking as the market gets more sophisticated, our cycles are not as amplified as they have been, and there's less opportunity for a lot of distress. We're going to have to turn to these other tools to do better.